Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Monday. It is July 27th. It's 2020, and we have 10 baseball games that we're going to talk about here on today's slate. I'm joined by my good buddy, Genie for 07. Grant, how are you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing absolutely fantastic. 3 days into baseball season, 4 days in, which for if you count opening day, and it's going well, and I'm happy.
Yeah, I took the weekend off. Like, it was weird. I always take the weekend off when it comes to fantasy baseball, but it was interesting because we've had a couple days, and it was just like, all right, well, I'm taking the weekend off, like I normally do, because I'm so busy with NASCAR stuff. And Sunday, like not having any NASCAR, it was the honey-do list day for sure. So definitely had to get that stuff taken care of. But yeah, I'm ready. I already started looking at this site or this slate about 2 hours ago. So I'm ready to roll here, man. We are going to talk about the 6 o'clock game because FanDuel did include it on their main slate. DraftKings starts with the Braves and Rays 6:40 games. So let's get started there. We got the Blue Jays and the Nationals. Trent Thornton against Anibal Sanchez. Any interest here in Thornton?
No, I mean, he came out last year at the beginning and had a decent K rate with striking out guys, and then just turned into total trash. He really doesn't have that great of stuff. Like, he has a whole bunch of pitches in his arsenal, but dude gives up a lot of fly balls, a lot of hard contact, and this Washington team, even without Soto in there, is pretty good. 5.5 run total against him. Like, I think the weather is going to be 90, so I'm fully out on Thornton.
Yeah, I'm fully out on Thornton too. We'll talk about the Nationals bats in a second, but I actually like some of these guys. Let's go over to the Toronto side here. They're facing Anibal Sanchez. Any interest in Sanchez?
Now it kind of splits neutral. We know what he is. He's a low strikeout pitcher that occasionally has a great outing for no apparent reason, but splits neutral. So, like, a lot of these righties, Biggio, Guerrero, Gurriel, like, they're going to do some damage against him. Again, good hitting conditions, so no interest in Sanchez for me.
All right, let's talk bats. Again, this is just on FanDuel, but we're looking at Vlad Guerrero Jr. 2,800 on FanDuel, Bo Bichette 3,000 on FanDuel. Biggio is the most expensive guy here at 3,400, but like if you wanted to necessarily like roll this like Toronto stack out here against high contact Sanchez, like they're not expensive.
Yeah, no, they're like Biggio is pretty much the only expensive guy, and he's like, again, Sanchez is a bit splits neutral, so I'm not really looking at lefty righty matchup. So lefty going up against Sanchez, not worried about it too much. So Bichette, Gurriel, Guerrero are all fantastic plays, and I mean, if you want to round out the stack, like, you can easily do it with a guy like Shaw, who I know was trash for most of last year, but no telling if he's going to do great again this year. But it's worth a shot. And Tellez has some power, like there's a lot of guys in this lineup that you can throw in as the fourth bat. Like, obviously my favorites are Bichette, Gurriel, and Guerrero, but everyone else in the lineup, I'm fine with throwing in as a fourth option. Over on FanDuel, this is a great stack, in my opinion. Sanchez can get blown up like crazy at any given time. He can get a little bit wild. So I'm a fan of the Blue Jay stack here. My three favorite bats are the ones I already said.
Yeah, what's interesting too about this stack over on FanDuel is like if you go for like that Shaw stack with Biggio, Vlad, and Bo, like you're using all your infield spots. So you get 3 outfield and a utility and probably a really good pitcher. For this slate anyway. So definitely in play. Going over to the Washington side of things, these guys are outside of Trey Turner really cheap too. I think Adam Eaton is definitely going to be pretty popular here at 2,900. Eric Thames is 2,600. Some cheap bats. Thornton really struggled, like you said, down the stretch. And, just looking at his overall numbers, there's nothing that really stands out to me for him to kind of have like a stellar season.
Yeah, no, I mean, he could, like, he's got a big pitch mix, and he can absolutely turn into a decent starter. But all signs from what we saw last year are kind of point towards, like, he just had a like fluky start where he was striking out a bunch of guys, but we know he's going to give up hard contact regardless. We know he's going to give up fly balls regardless. I'm kind of like Eaton. He's absolutely in there, 2.9K. Like, Turner is expensive, but he's a decent bat. But I'm fine with any of these other guys. Like Castro, if he's batting up high in the order, 2.5K. I know he wasn't great last year, but going up against a guy that gives up a decent amount of hard contact. He's got a 40% hard contact rate. Thames, Suzuki, Kendrick, like Suzuki's a guy that we plan to use against lefties predominantly, but he's actually got some power against righties too, and I have no problem using him here, especially with a guy that's just an average strikeout pitcher going up against him. So, like, pretty much 1 through 5 over on FanDuel, I'm more than happy to deal with. And again, people aren't going to use Suzuki too much because he's a catcher, but he is only 2K, so lots of pricings there. I don't mind any of these guys if he ends up making the lineup at 1 through 6, all great with me.
All right, Atlanta at Tampa. Michael Fultonevich against Tyler Glasnow. Any interest in Fultonevich here?
Fulte, he was a bit better towards the end of the season, and he is going up against a decently high strikeout Rays team. Problem is there's going to be a lot of lefties in it, and he did struggle a bit striking out lefties last season. I don't know if I hate it, to be honest. Like that, he was a guy that I hated using for a long time, and then he got his fastball up a bit higher towards the end of the season. Got blown up a few times, but he showed a little bit better stuff there. He's 10.3 is the big problem. Like on other sites where he's a bit cheaper, I don't mind using him. But like long shot GPP play, I think he's in play, but the price tag is what really gets me off. So if you find a cheap build, which there are a few cheap bats on this slate that you can go with high totals, I'm not happy about the one that I'm thinking of, but it's on there. If you have like some high total, low price bats, I don't mind pairing him along with Fultonevich.
Yeah, like Fulte at the end of the year was the Fulte that we saw the year before. 2018 Fulte was really strong. 2019 started terrible, but ended good. My biggest concern with Fultonevich isn't the lefties. It's the Atlanta has already come out and said they're going to be very careful with their starting pitchers the first 2 times through, as far as like pitch count goes. And like, that's not what I want to hear at 10.3K. So like, I struggle with that. Like, if you're playing tournaments, I do think he's in play. We know that he has 30 plus upside. And this game being in Tampa, obviously the much better ballpark for him. Glasnow on the other side, Atlanta's lineup is scary. This team, definitely has a ton of upside. They added, Zuna to this lineup. Like, this lineup is strong.
Yeah, this lineup is strong. I don't really care about that. Like, Glasnow's got great stuff.
Yeah.
What worries me is, like, what is Tampa going to do with him? Like, they were a little bit careful with him last time, and he didn't have a big walk rate, but he would work the count a decent amount, and lots of foul balls flying off of him. I have to know more about his pitch count. If we get any news one way or the other, that'll kind of make my decision for me. If we don't get any news, then I think I'm going to roll the dice with him. He's 8.9K. There, like I said, are a decent amount of cheap bats on the slate here. So, dude was just unreal at certain points last season. We didn't have a huge sample size from him, but he was throwing some heat, and he was striking guys out like crazy. I know it's a tough lineup, but there are some strikeouts in it, depending on which lineup ends up coming out here. But there may be a ton of strikeouts in this high power lineup, and Glasnow was a 50% ground ball pitcher. So I hope we get news on how many innings he's probably going to pitch, although it's Tampa Bay. I don't know if we will. But if he's going to go late enough into the game, I have a ton of interest in him.
Yeah, Mark Tompkin, the beat writer, the guy that follows the Rays that we follow all the time, he's on my MLB list, and he tweeted out that they're going to take it inning by inning. So, like, we're not going to get news. Like, they're going to take it inning by inning. So, like, if you're playing Glasnow, it's tournaments, and you're just hoping that he's pitching really well. Because if he's pitching really well, they'll probably let him go a lot longer than if he's walking guys and struggling. So, Glasnow is tournament option only, not only because he's facing, like, the Braves and this lineup's strong. It's more of just, like, I want guys that are going to go out and throw deeper into games, even if they're not as quality as some of these guys. So, for me, Glasnow tournament only. Any Braves bats that you like here?
No. I mean, we're going to get Tampa Bay bullpen and Glasnow. Like, it's strictly tournaments for me, and it's strictly long shot. Like, you can throw in Albies, Acuna, Freeman, even Matt Adams if he cracks the lineup there because he's so cheap. Like there are guys that could take the ball to the ballpark, but it's being played over in Tampa. Ground ball pitcher, doesn't give up a ton of hard contact. Like I just don't see many scenarios where the Braves put up a ton of runs in this game. And honestly, one of my favorite bets that I was looking at is the under of 8.5 runs on this game.
Yeah, it's small. It was one of the smaller ones on the slate.
Yeah, but I mean, I still like the under. Like I don't think there's going to be many runs scored in this game.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like, if you're approaching this Braves lineup, you're approaching it as like, all right, maybe Glasnow struggles and you get like a bulk bullpen game, but Tampa's bullpen's still really strong. So like it's still not like a win-win situation. So like, I think stack or nothing. I don't really want to one-off like Freeman or Ozuna or Albies. These guys are great, but if I'm going to play the Braves, I'm gonna stack them up here. And as far as Tampa goes, like, they're a low-owned, cheaper stack on the slate. Like, if Fulte's not pitching well, he already struggles with lefties. And, like, with Meadows out, a lot of these lefties are cheap.
Yeah, no. I mean, we have to worry a little bit about pinch hit risk, but we got Lau up there. We got Choi, both of them under 4.4K. Diaz, he's got some pop. Like, I know Fulte is better versus righties, but, there's not the highest price guy outside of Lau is Choi at 3.9K. They have a 4.7 run total. Like Fulte is a well-known guy, even though he struggled a little bit last season. He's still well-known as being predominantly their ace. This is one of the 3 or 4 really cheap stacks on the slate. Like there are 1, 2, 3 teams I see at least where you can get an average stack of about 4K per guy, taking the best guys in the lineup. And it's going to be, you're going to have money considering there isn't an absolute ace that you want to use. Fulte's the most expensive guy on the slate. So I have no problem using the Rays, and like they're probably going to be close to the lowest owned of the really cheap stacks. So go with the guys with power. Choi, Lau, Diaz a little bit, and I mean, we'll see who else is in the lineup, but this is not a bad way to go, and you can save it. This might be a day where you leave money on the board.
Yeah, I think that definitely could be contrarian. Moving on, we got the Cubs and the Reds, John Lester, Wade Miley. Any interest here in John Lester?
No, like there might be some rain concerns. But aside from that, like Lester, not a huge strikeout guy. If I had to guess someone that was going to go a little bit later into the game, it'd probably be him. But he's going up against a whole lot of power righties in the lineup here who can just absolutely take him out of the ballpark here. So I'm staying away from Lester.
Yeah, I don't like Lester either. I like the other side a lot more here, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Any interest here in Wade Miley?
Nope. I mean, Cincinnati's a decent park for strikeouts, but there's some power against righty or against lefties here in this Chicago lineup. Miley's he might go a little bit later into the game than he was over in Houston, but probably not a guy that's going to give you a slate winning score on this spot here. Like there are some strikeouts in this lineup, but I don't think he's going to be able to get it done here. I have very little to no interest in Miley, especially if there's rain.
So when I was doing my initial research, like I had zero interest in Wade Miley. I was with you, and then I started digging in. We know like last year he added that cutter, and it was one of the reasons that like he tilted us so much. So I was like digging into like how the Cubs do against left-handed cutters, and like honestly, there's not a lot of data. So I started to look at like how they do against like right-handed like cutters, and they're not very good against right-handed cutters. So I don't know if I want to like I want to stack the Cubs. I want to stack both sides of this game, but I also am throwing this out there because like don't be tilted at the end of the night if like Wade Miley only gives up like 1 or 2 runs, because that's what he did a lot last year with this new cutter, and like we don't have a lot of data. There's a lot of ground ball data. A lot of these guys were hitting ground balls. Like Chris Bryant who the stats say are the best play, is one of the better guys against cutters too. So like, just don't be shocked at the end of the night. Like if you're with me stacking the Cubs in this game, like don't be shocked at the end of the night if they like have 2 runs against Wade Miley.
I mean, I understand that. Like, and
I'm still stacking them.
Yeah,
Full disclosure.
Yeah, Cutter is, if I remember correctly, Cutter's kind of a pitch where it's a little bit more hand dependent. Like, I'm gonna double check right now, but I feel like his lefty righty splits are fairly similar on both sides.
Well, like his hit distance went down like from 2018. It was like crazy. It was like his hit distance was like 170 and it went down to like 150 because he started to throw the cutter more.
Yeah, well, he also can mix it up a little bit with his changeup there, so that definitely helps. But yeah, I don't know. I need to look into that a little bit more. It's been, as you know, it's been a little over a year since I've really looked into pitch type data that much.
Yeah, I just remember looking into it so much. Because like Wade Miley last year, like he tilted us so much last year.
Oh yeah.
So I remember looking into it a lot, and like it was really just based around the cutter. But listen, I usually play 1 to 3 teams a night. If I end up on playing 3 on this slate, which I probably will, I'll have a version of a Cubs stack because it is juicy and this game's juicy in general.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw the disclaimer out there because like the data suggests like the cutter was a lot better last year.
Yeah, and I need to look a little bit. Like it's, as I said, it's been a long time, and this is the first look podcast, but it's been a long time since I really looked at ball movement and pitch type. So it's slowly coming back. We're only 4 days into the season.
My issue too, like really quick, was like if you looked at like the left-handed numbers for a lot of the Cubs hitters last year, they hit the ball on the ground so much against lefties last year, and like that's like super concerning when you're like wanting to stack and get those home runs and stuff. So like I need to look into that more and looking like how many total home runs they hit against lefties last year too.
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. Like, we don't have a huge sample size. We see close to a 50% average ground ball rate for the Cubs, but we see guys, like half of them have a 300-plus ISO. So we're, like, looking at the starting lineup, and we see a huge amount of ground balls, but still actually seeing the ball leave the park a decent amount. I think it's more of a sample size problem. And I believe if you look at the 2018, 2019 numbers, like, Bryant is a guy that hit a ton of ground balls last year against lefties, but the year before he was hitting the ball up in the air a whole lot more, and guys like Contreras were hitting the ball up in the air a bit more. So you kind of see that ISO, and it just becomes kind of a sample size problem. So I think I'm not terribly worried about it. And yes, even though Wade Miley is a good ground ball pitcher, I feel like he's not going to get him off balance enough where they can't get the ball into the air.
All right, let's go to the red side of this game. What's your thoughts here when it comes to Cincinnati?
I mean, the hard-hitting righties. Castellanos, Suarez, Aristides if he's in the lineup, Davidson if he's in the lineup. Wait, Davidson?
Davidson,
yeah, he got the Rona.
COVID, yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to remember.
He was 2,100 too. Like, it would have been such a juicy spot.
Yeah. Gosh, who else got it?
Moustakas.
That was it. All right. I was trying to remember. I was out golfing today during all the games and strictly just sports bet today. So I can't – it's trying to remember all of it. But, yeah, the hard-hitting righties, whoever's in the lineup, absolutely go for them, especially the guys that can get the ball up in the air. Like, just I like the stack, especially if this game isn't going to have any rain problems.
Yeah, they called up Arcadius Aquino on Saturday when all that stuff went down. Like I got the alerts. So he's a hard hitting righty that's like very boomer bust. But they priced him way up, so like he could be lower owned here. This is probably my favorite stack on the slate. So I really want to look into it. Because like Nick Senzel was scratched Sunday because he wasn't feeling well. So like we could see a lot of reds drop here, unfortunately, over the next couple of days. And like we could get like guys like Phillip Ervin in the lineup and get like cheaper parts of this stack while still getting like Suarez and Castellanos and, stuff like that. So I really like the Reds here. I hope the weather holds off. I love stacking against John Lester because not only do you get like power upside, like if you get some of these quicker guys on base, like you get the stolen base upside too. So really like the Reds stack on the slate. I hope they kind of go a little overlooked. Up next, we got the Yankees and the Phillies. Jay Happ against Jake Arrieta. Any interest here in Happ?
Not really. Like, there's enough righties in this lineup where he really struggles against them. Like, the upside's kind of the same regardless of the lineup, just because of his K rate, and his walk rate's pretty similar on both sides. But we don't have a ton of pitching options on the slate, and he's 8.5K. Now that we really need the salary on the slate. But if he's going to come in at low ownership like that, that's how I could see playing him. But I'm assuming New York is going to be like they are with a lot of the other pitchers, be a little bit like cautious in his first start. And so I don't know, like, it's a decent price tag. There's not a ton of Ks in this lineup. It's right at league average, and there's a lot of power and a lot of power righties. So if he's going to come in at super low ownership, and we have him projected for around 4 or 5%, then I'll be on him. But I don't think that's going to be the case considering how small the slate is.
Yeah, I definitely don't hate that idea. Like, my biggest issue with Happ is, like, he is a massive splits guy. Like, he's really, really good against lefties, and he's terrible against righties. Like, his numbers against righties last year, 42% fly ball rate, a 25% hard to soft contact rate with a less than 20% strikeout rate. Like, his hit distance was 187. So with this game being in Philly too, good hitters ballpark, like for me on Happ, it would just be like a low ownership play. Because I agree with you, like pitching on this slate, we're on like number 3, number 4, number 5 starters for a lot of these teams. So like we're going to have slates like this until it starts to even out a little bit. And this is one of those slates where like I feel like you want to prioritize your hitting more than your pitching. So definitely want to get some of those Philly bats, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Jake Arrieta, man. Old man Arrieta. Last season, one thing Arrieta did really well was keep the ball on the ground against right-handed batters. And when you look at the Yankees lineup, we're looking at 7 righties. We were just talking about not having a ton of pitching. Arrieta's not going to go out and strike out 10 guys, but can he throw like 5 or 6 quality innings here against the Yankees at sub 10% ownership?
I mean, if Fed can.
That's true.
Gosh, that was infuriating. But yeah, it's an interesting spot. Like I said, we don't have a ton of pitching. There is a guy in this around the same price range that I'd prefer, but he's likely to be chalky. Arrieta's going up against the Yankees. Like, there is some good strikeout bats here, and he's not really a giant strikeout guy, but he's definitely better against righties, and there's some high strikeout righties in this lineup. So I hate playing Arrieta. Like, I absolutely hate it. It just drains my soul every single time. But I think you have to consider it, considering he's going up against a 5.8 run total. Like, it's strictly a game theory play because he can go, like, of all the guys on the slate, most likely guy to go 6 innings, if he's 7 innings, if he's not getting blown up, is probably Arrieta, because everyone else they're going to be careful with. Like, Phillies are one of those bubble teams that may or may not make the playoffs, but can really do something if they're in the playoffs. So they have a little bit more to play for a 60-game season. Arrieta, they'll let him go deep. I hate saying this, but yes, I'm in agreement. For tournaments, strictly a game theory play, strictly because the probability of outcomes, there are a few times where he ends up being one of the best pitchers on the entire slate, and he's going up against the second chalkiest likely lineup on this slate.
Yeah, I could tell you guys already, like, I do GPP tags for Core 4 premium at RotoGrinders. I already tell you that Jake Arrieta is going to be one of my tournament pitchers on the slate that I'm going to tag and write up because we don't have a lot of options. He's cheap. I want to prioritize bats. Like, if you're playing the Yankees, let's talk Yankees Bats. Like, if you're playing the Yankees here, you stack them. Like, you're not playing one-offs, right? Like, you're stacking this team.
Yeah, it's basically Arrieta is going to get into some trouble. Like he'll give up 1 to 2 bombs early on, and then the bullpen's probably going to bring in some of the bad arms, considering Hap can limit the damage against the Phillies, and then the Yankees have a great bullpen that they can bring in if they want to pull them after 4 innings or so. So, yeah, you're stacking up the Yankees any which way. Like, let's be honest, we don't care 1 through 9. Play any of them. Play literally any of them. Price tag on Judge is a little bit cheap. Price tag on Voit is a little bit cheap, even though he's hitting 6th in the lineup. Gary Sanchez, probably the premier catcher on this slate here. Like, it's the Yankees. It is what it is. They have the 2nd highest run total on the board here. They can hit bombs. It's 90 degrees out there. They are going up against a ground ball pitcher, but some of these guys can easily get the ball up in the air, and Stanton can hit any pitcher out of the ballpark. Like, Yankees are going to be the 2nd highest owned stack on the slate. I have no problem with playing them. I'm probably going to stay away just strictly because of the size of the slate, and I know the probability of outcomes. They can do what they did on Saturday and just suck. And so I'm probably staying away, but just based purely on the numbers, Yankees are the 2nd best stack on this slate, just in terms of average output.
Yeah, like the other thing really quick, like if you want to play a one-off, it would be Hicks, just for what it's worth. Like he'd be the one-off that I'd play. I don't think I'd play anybody else as a one-off. Phillies Bats, what do you got here for the Phillies?
Hard-hitting righties.
Yeah.
Really
Hoskins,
simple.
your boy.
Reese McCutchen, lefty matcher, suck it, Cardi. Real Muto, Segura, like Kingery, if he's in the lineup there, is not a terrible call at 3.6K. But like Segura's, why is he only 3.3K?
He's the best play on the slate. If you consider Price, he's the best play on the slate. Like
Price,
you're not going to need it, but
he's also playing third and short. Like
yeah.
He's going to be so heavily owned, and there's a very, very good reason behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just like even like, was somebody else supposed to pitch? I wonder, because like Hoskins is 4K. Like we get into these guys, and they're just outside of Real Muto and Bryce Harper. These guys are all really cheap. So like, I could see using like a Philly 3-man. And not going like Harper or Real Muto, or playing a 5-man, like however you want to do it. Like I think the Phillies are very much in play here as a stack.
If you're gonna stack, I don't hate throwing Didi in there. There is, I believe,
revenge.
Yeah, well, revenge is a stupid stat in baseball, but going up against a pitcher you used to play with for I think at least 2 years, that's a little bit different thing. Like what's coming from that pitcher a little bit more. So they're like revenge is mostly a worthless narrative unless it's going to be a pitcher going later into a game against his former team. But like former players against former pitchers, I think there is some things of that, and no one's going to play him lefty, especially with Segura $100 cheaper. And we don't know how late Hap's going to go into the game, so we could get some righties out of the bullpen. Like Didi is a great contrarian play off of Segura.
That's the only crappy thing about stacking Philly, right? Like you don't want to face the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning for the Yankees. So that's the only bad part. But yeah, I like Didi.
Well, if you're stacking them and they're going off, then like your stack's either dead or you're getting the bad bullpen arms.
Yeah, you're hoping, right? But yeah, Didi really quick, like 250 ISO against lefties last season, less than 15% K rate. So like he can do damage too. So I love that call. It's definitely a way to be a little bit different if you're looking at the Phillies here. We got the Brewers and the Pirates. Hauser against Steven Brault. Any interest here in Hauser?
So, like, that's the big thing. How late is he going to go into the game? He could be on the he was limited for a bit of last year. I don't know what they're planning on doing. Obviously, they have a great bullpen, and they got some other pitchers that they can throw out there. Like, so I don't know how cautious they're going to be this early on in the season with him in terms of his pitch count. It's something to look at tomorrow. But I think regardless, like there's weather concerns, and he's going up against a likely low strikeout Pittsburgh lineup. There's only a 4.3 run total. He's 8.3K. People are going to have the money to pay for him. So he's probably going to draw some ownership, but the pitch count is a concern, and the matchup, while he's not going to give up a whole lot of runs in all likelihood, he very easily is not going to strike out too many guys in all likelihood. So I don't know if I'm going to end up using any Hauser. There's too many concerns for me. I think I'm just out on him.
The only thing that I'll say on Hauser, like if you're playing over on FanDuel, he's 6K, and like if he can get through 5, he probably has one of the better win probabilities on the slate. So I don't think he's a bad option over there. I think he's in play on DraftKings too. Really going to see, like, if he's going to be like 35% owned, I think that's way different. That's a whole different conversation. But like Grant said earlier, we're a first look podcast. It's always been that way. We look at the slate more from statistical side than ownership side. And like, if Hauser's not going to be too popular, I think he's definitely in play on a slate where we don't have a ton of options. And it sounds like he's going to be a starter this year. So everything that I've read said he's going to be a starter. We're not going to see like this whole, like, he's going to go out and throw 2 innings thing. So we'll have to see. Yeah. Like, that's obviously something
he was definitely moving towards that last year, towards the end of last year. And I would assume that's the thing. Again, I haven't looked into it a ton. I'm kind of waiting to hear if we don't know what news we'll get at any point during this season. Cause I mean, people are getting booted because of Corona, like 2 hours before the game. So we don't know if we'll get any news, but it's something that's just in the back of my mind, and everything else just kind of makes me think like I don't want to use him.
Yeah, fair enough. Steven Brault on the other side, I don't want to use him. Low strikeout guy, struggles against righties, and outside of Yelich, they technically could throw like 8 right-handed bats against him here.
Yep. Yeah, and Yelich is still pretty good versus lefties. He's 4.3K, which on another slate might make me salivate a little bit at the thought of playing him and just hoping for 15, 18 points. This is not a slate where we need, like, unless you want to do a Yankees-Houston stack, which, I mean, honestly, talking about now, I wouldn't mind doing a Yankees-Houston stack with Brault in there just to mess around. But he's, like, his price tag makes me think, all right, but, like, it's strictly just to play other bats in my lineup that I can prioritize that are going to be huge total games.
Let's talk bats here. Anything standing out to you for the Brewers?
Ron, Hira, Garcia, probably Kane. Garcia is probably my favorite out of any of them. He's 4.2K, which I don't think is a terrible price tag. He's good versus lefties. Brault struggles against righties. But any of the hard-hitting guys, and then throwing a 5.9K Yelich on this slate is not going to be that tough, considering you can double stack it with a Detroit team or any other cheap team like the Phillies even, and still fit him in there with some decent pitching options. So it's the hard-hitting righties and Yelich.
Yeah, I also want to throw out there, like, Justin Smoke used to be really good against lefties, and like that's kind of died off. I don't even hate throwing like Justin Smoke in there if you're gonna go like Yelich, Braun, Garcia. Kane used to be really good against lefties too. So like there are ways you could definitely get a Brewer stack out there. I don't like this ballpark either. Like I don't like stacking in Pittsburgh. We do have some good ballparks on the slate. So and then on the other side, the Pittsburgh side of things, like Hauser is a good pitcher. So I don't really necessarily see myself like stacking Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh on this slate. Like Bell as a one-off is always in play. Ozuna as a one-off is always in play, but like these guys are more one-off plays for me than like a full-on stack.
Yeah, it worked about 4 times last year stacking Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, and those were just massive BABIP games. Something I stay away from unless like it really helps something else fit. But I want Josh Bell in my lineup if I'm stacking him, so that kind of makes it a little tougher. And there's a lot of other cheap stacks. I don't know if I'll play a single Pittsburgh player tomorrow.
Yeah, like what stinks is like they have Ozuna and Bell at first base, so like you can't even get like the 2 like main power bats in the same lineup here on DraftKings. So
yep,
it's tough to make the stack happen. Mariners and Astros, Kendall Graveman against Josh James. Any interest here in Graveman?
No, I'm just mostly sad. The Mariners are trash. That's the end of it. Don't play Graveman against the Astros. He's not a strikeout pitcher, and the Astros are good.
Okay, so I did some digging on Kendall Graveman. We don't have a ton of like data on him, and one thing that I found out is like this dude throws gas. I don't know if you knew that or not. Like he has been working on this new fastball, and like he was hitting like upper 90s, like 96, 97 on their inter squad game like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. So listen, what we saw from Kendall Graveman when he was with the Athletics was, decent stuff, but no strikeout pitch. If he's really throwing this hard now, like maybe it adds a strikeout pitch. Here's my thing, really quick. Like it's the Astros. He's 4,900. I don't need to go this low today. I'm going to watch this game. I'm going to see how Kendall Graveman pitches, and maybe we get him in a different kind of spot where we can take advantage of this heat that he's throwing now.
That's
And then
smart.
Josh James probably going to be one of the chalkiest pitchers on the slate, right?
I would assume so, assuming he's going to go long enough in the game. 30% K rate last season, going up against one of the worst lineups in baseball that strikes out a decent amount. Yeah, I would say so. And like just based on game theory, I might fade him, I might play him. I really have no lean either way because biggest concern is fly balls and hard contact because of the pitches he throws and the heat he throws. And if they get the right pitch, they can take it out of the ballpark. But let's be honest, who's going to take it out of the ballpark? Lewis, Vogelbach, maybe Seager, but everyone else is just trash in this lineup.
Yeah, lineup's not great. We saw him. He was more of a reliever down the stretch last year, wasn't he? Like, is he gonna throw
I don't know. That's the main thing. I wouldn't think that he's going to throw a full outing, but the Astros, obviously, Verlander's out for a significant period of time. They no longer have Garrett Cole. Yes, they got McCullers back, but they've I don't know what they're going to do with the rotation. I haven't found enough information where I can know because they obviously have some depth. They have Peacock that they could possibly throw back in even with his walk issues, but we don't really know exactly what they're going to do with the rotation. So
he's going to start. I don't want to interrupt you. He's going to. I just found he was their number 4 even before Verlander got hurt, and he was stretched out during this summer camp. So he's going to start and throw.
There we go. So he's going to be chalky. He's probably going to do well because the Mariners suck and he throws heat.
Yeah, he has a really good swinging strike rate, but we don't have any sample size. Like everything that we have for him is mostly like 1 or 2 innings out of the bullpen. So, yeah, like this is definitely interesting. Listen, if you're playing like a cash game format, you're probably playing Josh James, right? Like, he's probably one of the safer pitchers on the slate. Even in tournaments, I don't think he's a bad play on this slate, but if you're playing Josh James, you got to be different with your bats. Maybe you're leaving salary on the table. Maybe you're stacking a lower owned team. Outside of like Lewis and Vogelbach, there's not really much to like here on the Seattle Bats, and you probably play those as just like chasing home runs as one-offs.
Yeah, I mean, you can go with J.P. Crawford. You can go with Seager. Seager obviously had a tough season last season, really didn't do a whole lot. He did have 1 random 2 home run game, but he's a guy that's in the past who's shown some decent numbers, and I think he's actually been pretty decent versus lefties, which is more than likely going to regress more to the mean, and he's going to be better versus righties. Yeah, last season, overall, he had decent numbers, but he had a 394 WOBA versus lefties and a 300 WOBA versus righties, which isn't something that's normal. So overall, his numbers are probably better, and his platoon split's probably going to be a little bit closer to the mean. So I don't mind throwing in Seager there at 3.5K, just going up against a chalky pitcher. And if you want to do a 3-man stack with Lewis, Seager, and Vogelbach, you're not paying a ton of money for him, and you're getting some massive leverage.
Astros bats here, Springer, Bregman, Altuve, they're all super expensive. Correa, he's affordable. Kyle Tucker is not too bad. Gurriel is pretty cheap. Brantley's pretty cheap. Like Michael Brantley on a normal slate would be, 30% owned at 3,300 in this spot. Do we still think he's going to be really popular, even though we don't need the $3,300 value?
We don't, but you got to realize that in cash games, people are probably going to be paying up for Josh James and possibly paying up for Glass now just because they can. And, you're getting those automatic Ks. So while in tournaments, people are going to slightly stay away from it, but all those people throwing their cash game lineups in tournaments are going to all have Brantley in it, and they're all going to have Segura in it. So, yes, he's still going to be fairly heavily owned here just because he's a guy with a platoon split who had some of the best numbers in the league last season.
For years now. Like, Brantley is a good hitter. Low strikeout rate. He's going to put the ball in play. Great for cash games here, even if you don't need it, he's great for cash games. So, man, like overall though, like with Brantley being so cheap, it's almost really too easy to make a 5-man Houston stack here.
No, it absolutely is. Even with Gurriel being cheap, even though his home runs might regress a little bit, like Correa is even 4.4K, and we have one pitcher over 10K. Yes, the Astros and the Yankees are going to be uber chalky in this slate, more the Astros than the Yankees by a decent margin. So just based on that, like Graveman maybe is throwing heat, maybe he is doing well, maybe a lot of the numbers last year the Astros were because they were dirty, rotten cheaters. But like the Astros are the chalk play, and they're the chalk play for a reason. And Brantley's going to be the chalkiest of any of them for a very specific reason. So play him in cash, play Astros in cash. Tournaments, I'm fine with fading, but it's a game theory play more than a numbers play.
White Sox and Indians, Dylan Cease against Aaron Civil. Any interest here in Dylan Cease?
I don't think so. Like the dude's got
going to be the two of the popular pitchers, right?
This game?
Yeah, I just feel like pricing being so easy, I feel like people might pay up for these guys because they have some strikeout stuff.
I mean, but main thing, I think Cease less than Seville. Like 5.1 run total against them. Like Cleveland, yes, they have some big strikeout bats, but the top four of their lineup just doesn't strike out, and there's power in this lineup. So I don't think that he's going to be chalky at all. Like I think people are going to see the strikeout rate of Glass now, like not really know a whole lot of things. He's going to be a little bit chalkier. But Seville over on the other side, that's a different story. But I don't have a ton of interest in Cease just because of the top of the lineup there that he's most likely going to get through a few times or have to go through a few times. I'm out on him. Like he's got good stuff, but I don't imagine him being too chalky, and I still don't have a ton of interest in him.
Yeah, my biggest concern with him is like he was very like different splits last season. Like, you know, he was really good against lefties, but he struggled a lot more against righties last year. So, or really good against righties and struggled against lefties. Sorry, I said it backwards there. You know, really high strikeout rate to righties, and like this is another team that, you know, can throw 6-7 lefties at him. So, you know, this is all going to depend on the lineup. If they throw a lot of lefties at him, I'm not going to play him. And then on the other side, Seville, man, like he had really good strikeout stuff against lefties last year, Grant, but like 27.4% hard to soft contact ratio. Like it's strikeouts or hard hits here. And like we have bats in this lineup. Like the White Sox, this lineup overall is much better than last year.
Oh, yeah, it's a fantastic lineup, and you know how I love playing the White Sox. I don't think Seville's going to be that chalky. I have a lot of interest in him. Like, people are going to feel the need to pay up. I think that this is the night before, I think a lot of people are going to pay for probably Pablo Lopez, and then they're going to go with a second guy like Happ, who's in a decent spot, and they're going to go with someone like Glass now. But, I mean, it depends a little bit on the rain, but Seville, I have a decent amount of interest in him. So, yes, the White Sox can absolutely destroy him, but a decent amount of their power, Jimenez, who may not play tomorrow because he ran into the wall, Tim Anderson, Abreu, Encarnacion, they're all righties. He strikes out righties at a smaller clip, but we don't have a massive sample size on it. And on top of that, he doesn't give up hard contact. He doesn't give up fly balls to righties. Most of the guys that I'm worried about taking him out of the ballpark outside of Moncada and Grandal are all righties. So I have a decent amount of interest in him. I don't think people are going to play him at 9.7K. They're just going to take Josh James, and they're going to take what's his name, and then they're going to be happy. And so he's going to go overlooked. I have a lot of interest in him in tournaments. I could see him giving up one to 2 bombs, but I could easily see him striking out 8 to 10 people in this game. Like, it's definitely within the realm of possibility, and there's definitely a whole lot of upside in this lineup, even though they're very good. Not a single person in this lineup strikes out at under a 20% K rate.
I think you nailed it. I don't really need to get into it too much. Like, if we're playing tournaments, like, we can stack the White Sox on one team and play this guy on the other because, like, that's what it is. Like, it's a boom bust spot. It's either he's going to go out and he's going to miss bats and these guys are going to be whiffing, or he's going to go out and these guys are going to hit him hard because there's a lot of power in this lineup. So a lot of strikeouts in this lineup, and just, going over to the White Sox bats, like, that's how I approach them. Stack or nothing. I don't really want to play one-offs here. I do think the stack is in play because even though they have high strikeout rates, like 4 or 5 of these guys had ISOs over 200 against right-handed pitching last season.
Yeah, I mean, you can second. I have no problem taking Moncada or Grandal as a one-off. Like, I think more people are going to go with. Well, people are going to go with Gary Sanchez. Yeah, like Gary Sanchez. You can get in the exact same lineup as someone, but switch the catcher from Sanchez to Grandal, who Sanchez is going to be way higher owned because they have a 5.7 run total. Like, Seville strikes out lefties at a decent rate. Grandal strikes out at just a slightly above league average rate, but he gives up a 40% hard contact rate and 41% fly ball rate. Grandal can absolutely take him out of the ballpark, and I just love Moncada in almost every single situation. Both of them, even though they're expensive, we have the money to pay for 2 cheaper pitchers, and you're great. We're going to get to 2 of them pretty quickly here.
What's your thoughts here on the Cleveland side of things?
Top 4 of the lineup, have no problem with it. Cease is still a young pitcher who can easily get blown up in any given outing. He has good stuff, but he's still got a 10% walk rate, and he can get into some trouble here, especially against a team that knows how to work the count. They don't have a ton of ball or of walks in their lineup, but they absolutely have guys that can just work the count. Ramirez seems to be getting a little bit hot. I think he had 2 home runs today. Lindor can do things. Reyes can take anyone out of the ballpark here. I actually like the Cleveland stack here.
Yeah, and like Daniel Johnson, if he's in the lineup, like, he's one of the top prospects for this team, and had really good minor league numbers. So, like, he would definitely be into someone else at 3,700. Hernandez down there as well. So a lot of different ways to potentially stack this Cleveland team. So don't mind that at all. Moving on, we got the Royals and the Tigers. Mike Montgomery against Michael Fulmer. Any interest here in Montgomery?
I played him quite a bit last year. This is a high strikeout lineup that's not very good, but this is not the slate where we need a 6.5K pitcher that might do something. He could do something. I'm not going to bother with him.
Yeah, like, this lineup's nothing special. CJ Cron, Miguel Cabrera, there's better bats in this lineup towards the top, but, like, man, the bottom of this order is so bad. I'm with you. I don't think we need him on this slate. But yeah, like, it doesn't look good. Let's go to the other side here. Michael Fulmer probably only going to throw an inning or 2 at max here. Not going to pitch too deep. I think it's going to be either Soto or Alexander that is the long reliever here. Both of them are lefties for what it's worth, and both of them struggled against right-handed bats last season. So for me, this is just like a pitching situation that I'm just completely staying away from.
There's no point in it. There's cheap pitchers on this slate. You don't need money. I'm not touching it.
Yeah, the thing here is, like, with it being a lefty coming in, like, could we potentially see, like, Mondesi's 3,500, Soler is 3,800. Like, Whit Merrifield is the most expensive Kansas City Royal bat at 4K. Like, this might be one of those stacks where, like, it doesn't matter who your pitchers are because they're going to be a lower owned stack, and you can kind of get different here, whether it be Alexander or Soto, who's the long reliever.
Yeah, and people are going to immediately look at the numbers, like righty versus lefty, righty versus righty here, and they're probably going to go more towards the lefties here. When a lefty long relief guy is coming in, it changes things drastically. They've got 4.5 total, which is one of the lower ones on the board today, and they've got power. It's going to be 83 degrees outside roughly tomorrow, and you look at like Solaire's numbers versus both righties and lefties. He can take them out of the ballpark. Witt's got great numbers versus righties. Mondesi struggled. He's a switch hitter, and he struggled a little bit more versus lefties. But a guy I'm willing to throw into the lineup, like I have no problem throwing these guys in here. And you're just going to have so much money. I might even throw McBroom in there.
Yes,
2K.
I was going to say it. Yep.
I hate it. It's killed me so many times. I'm still going to keep doing it when he's 2K going up against a potential lefty for 4 or 5 innings. So, yeah, I like this stack quite a bit, and I don't think it's going to draw that much ownership.
Yeah, McBroom was one of the Yankees guys, 259 ISO, 146 WRC plus in AAA last season, hit 29 home runs for the Yankees in AAA last year. So there's power there, and with O'Hearn out, like McBroom, 2K, you can play him in the outfield. He's a first baseman, but you can play him in the outfield. So like, again, like if you're stacking the Royals, it doesn't matter. Like you could take the 2 chalkiest pitchers on the slate because like this stack's going to be lower owned. Because like Grant said, like people are going to be like, all right, we're looking at the lefties because it's Fulmer, where technically like it's going to be a lefty coming in and pitching. So like you can look at these potential right-handed bats, even like Franco, who we know hits left-handed pitching well.
Plus you can throw in an optimizer really easily because you can stack anyone 1 through 7. And you have Witt at second and outfield and McBroom at first and outfield. So it makes it an easy double stack in almost every single situation.
Yep. Any Detroit bats that you like here?
Crone. I definitely like him.
He's homering. He's hitting a home run today.
Oh, absolutely he is. Scope, another guy, both of them cheap. I think that the Detroit might actually be a decently popular stack today, which is why I might stay away from it. I'm going to wait and see what Jamino throws out with ownership, or whoever's doing ownership now. I don't even know anymore. It's been a long time. But like, I think that they're going to draw some ownership. If they're going to be low owned, then yeah, I'll absolutely throw in a Cabrera, Scope, Crone, Maven stack, or depending on the site, those 4, and even Nico up there at top. But this is a good matchup for them. Royals bullpen isn't great, if I remember correctly. Montgomery is not a great pitcher. He gives up a decent amount of hard contact, and there's actually some power in this Detroit lineup here, and they're all super cheap. I think that they're going to be one of the popular options to stack along with Houston, even though you're getting Brantley in there. Like, you're still paying $5K for the rest of the guys, and they're going to be popular to stack with the Yankees. So if you're going to stack them up and they are going to be popular, do it with a team that's a little bit different than those two. Like, do it with a non-chalk team. If they aren't going to be chalky, absolutely stack them up, and I'll take all the power bats.
CJ Cron's hitting home run today. He's super cheap. It doesn't matter. Orioles and Marlins. Woj against Lopez. Any interest here in Wojciechowski?
It's going up against Miami. We're not sure who's going to be in the lineup tomorrow because there could be another 5 guys with Corona. But Woj, obviously, at a certain point last season, he was dealing for no apparent reason, just shut down the Red Sox. He doesn't have great stuff. He's not a great pitcher, but he occasionally gets it done. He's going up against a team. I don't think he's going to draw a lot of ownership. He's going up against a team that's not great with a decent amount of strikeouts in there. I have some interest in him as a lower-owned guy that like can absolutely get it done here. Remember, they have a 4.7 run total, Miami. That's surprising. But a lot of that is because of Baltimore's horrible bullpen. So Woj, he's a guy that can strike out. He's still at a 25% K rate versus righties, and he's probably going to face 6 of them that all of them are bad. And he's facing some decent strikeout lefties. So I have a decent amount of interest in him just as a low-end guy.
Yeah, I like him too. Great ballpark. Might not get the win, but like, give me 15 to 20 points on DraftKings today, and I think it's plenty. Like,
I mean, if Baltimore can beat the Red Sox, then
that is true.
I think they can beat the Marlins. Although the Marlins can beat whoever the heck they were playing.
The Marlins could probably beat the Red Sox. So, but yeah, you mentioned it. Like 3 of these players for the Marlins got COVID and they're out. So, like outside of Dickerson, This lineup, Jonathan VR, like it's a weak lineup, man. Like he's going to be facing some weak bats here. Like just like avoid giving up a home run to Dickerson. Like walk him every time he gets up. Like he has a high walk rate anyway. Just walk those guys. Like and just face this bad part of the lineup. Like I think he's definitely in play today. Um, and then like on the other side, I think Lopez is going to be really popular here. You know, it's a Marlins pitcher who has really good splits against right-handed bats. You know, they have 4 or 5 righties in this lineup, and he was able to get ground balls to both sides, even giving up a lot of hard contact to lefties. You think Lopez is going to be pretty popular here?
Yeah, I think like outside Josh James, he's probably going to be the most chalky pitcher on the slate. We've seen it before a few times last year. He had a decent matchup, and a lot of people played him. He's a guy that's got decent stuff. He's not great. He's not terrible. He has some decent splits, but anytime he's playing over in Miami, like it's a little bit different of a scenario because he's got a 41% hard contact rate versus lefties, and ball's not leaving the park too often in Miami. And we got Santander, we got Ruiz, we got Chris Davis, who can't hit a single thing. And we got Stewart. None of those guys are big home run risks. So he generally keeps the ball a little bit more on the ground versus lefties and doesn't give up nearly as much hard contact. And so I think he's going to be one of the chalkiest pitchers on the slate. I think he may be your cash game SP2. But for tournaments, I like him if he's not going to be chalky. But if he's going to draw a lot of ownership, it might not be the worst idea in the world to stay away from him.
All right, Baltimore Bats. Obviously, we like him for a reason. You know, this lineup is definitely not scary. I think the scariest bat in this lineup is probably Austin Hayes. Any interest here in the Baltimore Bats?
I'm just going to sum up batters in this game very quickly. Dickerson or Aguilar.
Yeah, Hayes and Dickerson one-offs would probably be the only way that I would approach this game, too. I don't love it. Like, if you're looking for a low-owned stack, the Baltimore bullpen is terrible. Like, if you want to stack the Marlins at 3% ownership, they could score 10 runs on 1 or 2 home runs, but I don't know if that's going to be enough on this slate. That's the only problem.
If it were in Baltimore, it'd be an entirely different situation. But, like, they're probably not hitting too many bombs here.
All right, Mets and Red Sox. Michael Wacha against Zach Godley is going to be the long reliever, so we'll say Zach Godley. Any interest here in Michael Wacha?
Against Boston? In Boston, no.
Wacha, really high WOBA last season. His strikeout rate was under 19%. Even like the ground ball rate started to dip and the hard hit rate started to go up. So I'm with you. I have no interest in Wacha. Zach Godley was terrible last year too. High walk rate, low strikeout rate. Any interest in Godley in the long relief role here?
Nope.
Let's talk bets. The Mets bats are probably one of my favorite stacks on the slate. I would rank them top 3 for me on this slate. I really like the Mets here. Zach Godley's terrible. Boston bullpen is very shaky. This could be a spot the Mets hang 10 plus on the Red Sox.
Yeah, absolutely. Right there with you. I have no problem playing anyone, obviously. Alonso, McNeil, Conforto, Cespedes, Nimmo, even Cano. Like, all of them are very much in play. They're a little bit more expensive, and people are going to be more drawn towards both the Astros and the Yankees as higher price stacks. So this being a lot lower owned, I think it's the perfect pivot off of those 2 higher price stacks there. And Godley, not good. This is just going to be a high scoring Mets game here.
This game is going to be high scoring in general. Like this could be like you're betting the over in this game. Like this is a game, both sides of this game. Like I don't even know what
we don't have a total for that. Yeah, we don't have a total for it right now.
It could be 10.5, and I'd bet the over in this game. Like you know, unless it's something crazy like 12, and like then you're just playing the odds. But like this could be a game that's a ton of runs. Like the Red Sox bats on the other side of this game, Benintendi, Devers, like all these guys, Verdugo should be in the lineup here. Like just load up on bats in this game. This is a juicy baseball game.
Yep, right there with you.
All right, let's play the morning grind game, and then we'll get out of here. Under 8K to get 6 or more strikeouts will be where we start. We're going back to the old morning grind game. Got a lot of tweets and messages and stuff, so we're just going to switch it back. So give me a guy under 8K to get 6 or more Ks.
I'm going more ballsy than I was on opening day because we have more than 2 games. I'm going with Woj.
You took my guy. I knew you were going to take my guy too.
No, you know me too well. Gosh, I missed this.
I did. See, I just don't think anybody else under here can get 6 or more Ks. So I'm going to take the guy that I think is going to score the most points and give me Jake Arrieta against the Yankees. Over 8K to score under 15. Who's your bust today?
Hauser.
Really not on him, are you?
No, I'm not.
I think when you dig into him more, like he might be someone that you end up on more than you think right now.
It's more the matchup than anything. Like in a different spot, and also I guess the rain is probably playing into it. But like I just don't like playing pitchers against the Pirates because they generally have a low run total because they're not a good team, but they just don't strike out a whole lot.
Yeah, I get that for sure. I'm going John Lester. I already said that. Like I like the Cincinnati stack here. I don't think John Lester's going to do well. Expensive bat to hit a home run. Who do you got for over 4K to hit a home run today?
Can I go exactly 4K?
Sure can.
Reese's Pieces.
I should have just like wrote that in earlier. I already knew that's who you were going to pick. So, man, there's so many bats on the slate. I'm trying not to go like super chalky here. Give me Nick Castellanos against John Lester. Under 4K to get 2 hits. Who do you got?
Crone.
That's a nice one. I like that one. See, the chalky answer here is Michael Brantley, right? Like,
yes.
Or Gene Segura. Like, that's the chalky answer. I'm not going chalky. I'm going Soler, and one of those is going to be a home run.
Well, both of mine are going to be home runs. Where I know.
Oh, double dunk call. Give me a stack to score 6 or more runs on the slate.
I mean, there's the obvious ones. I'm trying to think of the one I was on the most throughout the podcast that's going to be under-owned. Nah, I'm just going Mets.
Yeah, I like the Mets call. Like I said, they're a top 3 team for me on this slate. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Royals. I think they're going to be super different. I don't think a lot of people are going to be on them on this slate. And then finish it out, Grant. Give me an over-under against the spread pick. Give me something that's standing out to you today.
What was it? I already said it at the beginning of the slate. I'm going with the under on the Tampa Bay Rays, under 8.5.
Tampa Bay.
Thanks. I'm just going to throw that bet in right now.
There you go. Get it on. Get it in there. We don't have a total for the Red Sox game yet. Unless it is over 12, I'm going to take the over in that one. And if it's over 12 when it comes out, I'll send out a tweet and change that up.
Okay,
So
there's already heavy juice on the under over on DK on that game. Apparently, I'm not the only one.
All right. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Nope, I got nothing.
All right, it's going to wrap it up here for Monday. Hope everyone had an awesome weekend. We'll be back tomorrow talking some more baseball. Good luck in your contest, and we'll see you then.
Tickets.